Alright boys, welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to 8 charts that will change the way you see dating. Now this isn't the newest video, it's just been sent over a few times, so we're going to be reacting to it today. And before we even get into watching this video, there is nothing surprising that's actually going to come of this. And I'm gonna give my predictions beforehand, before we even watch it. So what's going to happen is we're going to figure out how actually cooked the dating market is in the Big 26. How skewed it is for average men, how the average men get absolutely no play whatsoever, how the chicks go for the top 10% of dudes, and how attraction is relative. So probably what's going to happen is the attractive males get everybody. The average males see the average females as more attractive than they actually are. And then when it's flipped, it's probably going to be like a bell curve. It's going to look pretty symmetrical for the dudes as far as the attraction perception goes. And then when the chicks come in, it's going to be fucking super skewed. We're going to be seeing fat bitches, fucking Lajanas all the way in the back talking about, I'm a 10 and I deserve the world. Buy me a bag. Some bullshit, some trash. So that's probably what we're going to be seeing here today. Now, word of advice. I know we're going to get into it, but word of advice for y'all, bro. If you don't want to be the victim, if you don't want to be a victim in the situation, because that's just the situation, it's unchangeable. If you don't want to be the victim that gets absolutely nothing, you got to improve, bro. Looks max, money max, and fucking status max. It's the only way, bro. It's the only way. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's watch this video.
Standard bell curve. This is a chart showing how men perceive women's attractiveness. Looks pretty normal. Men tend to perceive women's attractiveness on a standard bell curve. On the scale of 1 to 5, the average is 2.83, with the most common rating being 3. 8% are above the 4 and 17% below a 2. All pretty normal. And here is how women perceive men.
Exactly. This is the shit I'm talking about. This is the shit I'm talking about right here. It's crazy how skewed shit gets, honestly. This is the power of simps in women's comments. This is the power of bullshit that these motherfuckers be giving these women free validation for no reason. This is what happens.
Yeah, doesn't look so good for men. Taking this at face value, only 1 in 6 men are above average in an absolute sense. And if we translate this plot to something more familiar, like IQ, then we have a world where women think 58% of men are brain damaged.
And it's not ridiculous to say that whatsoever. It's not ridiculous to say that whatsoever. This is genuinely how they perceive us, bro. This is genuinely what it is.
When we dive a little deeper, though, it becomes clear this isn't a men are too ugly to date thing. It's a men are too ugly to hook up with thing. This is OkCupid, one of the biggest dating sites in the world. And this is Christian Rudder, the former CEO of the platform. In 2009, looking to promote the platform, Rudder and his team began to release data from the site.
Bruh. The moment you start releasing data to the masses, and some people actually have brains up there and they can read and see what's going on, they can see how degenerate everything gets, bro. They can see how terrible and how skewed the stats are. And when they start seeing that it's a losing game, people are going to start opting out. The majority are not going to opt out in the beginning because they're slower. But as time goes on, and as they keep wasting money on bullshit fucking improvements on their apps to get rated higher, or to rank higher to have somebody swipe on you more likely than not, then this shit's going to happen. They're going to see it, and they're going to just stop playing the game altogether. And this was when? This was in, what did he say, 2009? This was in 2009. So if that was back then, in the Big 26, with all the stats that we have and the reference experience that people have acquired, you can now possibly, you could just see how skewed it is. So a lot of people probably just opt out of it now.
In 2009, looking to promote the platform, Rudder and his team began to release data from the site, giving us an insight into what the dating market really looks like behind closed doors.
It's fucked. I wish I had a soundboard, bro. I need to get a soundboard. You know, I could be streaming, doing all this shit. I don't have a soundboard. You know how many FAs I could have thrown in here, bro? You know how many FAs I could have used? This is some bullshit, man.
2014, he released the book Dataclysm, summarizing much of the data revealed by the site. Within the book, Rudder displays the differences between how men and women view each other's attractiveness on the site. But when asked about it in an interview promoting the book and platform, This is what he had to say.
Tinder, those curves move even further apart.
Crazy.
Match, they move closer together. The male curve barely moves. It's really the female curve that moves around. The men kind of have the same curve on all three sides, and it's the female.
Now I wonder what the reason is behind that. Why is the male stagnant and not moving, and the woman's just fluctuating like crazy from app to app? Wonder why that is. You know, if you guys have an idea, we probably already know what it is. We know why it fluctuates like that, but let's see what y'all think. Comment down below. I want to see what you guys think.
Curve that moves around.
When OkCupid was acquired by the Match Group in 2011, Rudder got access to the rest of the Match Group's biggest platform's data. The two biggest of which at the time, Match.com.
Wait a second. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know half of the shit on here. Like, obviously we know these two. We know this one. The rest is, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know. I've probably heard this name before, but this is the first time I've ever seen this logo. That's some bullshit. I don't even what the fuck this is. And yeah, these are old. They're probably just discontinued.
Biggest platform's data. The two biggest of which at the time, Match.com and Tinder, give us a lot of insight into what's really going on here. Although charts or data were never posted, we can estimate based on what Rudder said. This is an estimate of how women perceive men on Match.com. And this is an estimate of how women perceive men on Tinder.
Where's that fire emoji? Where's that? I'm gonna get a soundboard, bro. I'm gonna get a soundboard. That's crazy. What is this, man? Tinder is so gamified and so skewed. This is insane.
We can see that for women, as the dating site becomes more casual in nature, the standards climb. Although people like to push the narrative that women are delusional and have too high standards, the data seems to say the relatively high standards are only for casual intimacy, which when you consider the additional risks women take on with intimacy, the relatively high standards seem reasonable. Essentially, women are thinking, if I'm going to take the risk of a casual hookup, you better be attractive. The next question is then, what makes someone attractive? To answer this question, I'd like to bring forward a study from 2016, looking at what women look for in a speed dating context. The study started by giving women a list of 6 traits and asking them to assign points.
You know what? Before we even look into this shit, this is a very, very simple answer, okay? Very simple answer. I'm not even gonna go nerdy and crazy about it and look into evolutionary terms and how shit looked historically and all that. No, we're not doing any of that. What women gonna say, what they're gonna say they like is literally the absolute polar opposite. So if they say they want personality, if they say they want somebody that's sincere and trustworthy and absolutely just nice, somebody that's gonna get them roses on the first date or whatever they say, just assume the absolute opposite. Just assume they're lying and do the polar opposite, and that's exactly what they're attracted to and what they'll respond to. So whatever it is they say, just do the absolute opposite. It's yes, no day. Just switch whatever it is.
To each trait based on how important it was to them. The average distribution of points the women provided looked like this. All attributes given near even value. After completing the dates, the women were asked to assign...
And before we get into anything, listen, the moment we're talking about social media and online dating, the most important thing is first impression. And because it's first impression via pictures and nothing else, physical attractiveness is peak. That's literally everything. It's all about appeal and physical attractiveness. That's where looks maxing comes in. You need to look good. You need to sell yourself in a good light. You need to have good pictures and good locations that kind of show the appeal and the masculine frame that you want to project to the world, right? So it's kind of like marketing yourself. So essentially, all this other shit doesn't matter, especially if you're trying to hook up on fucking Tinder, bro. Like, if you try to do more dates with her, then fine. And yeah, you could say, oh, my personality matters. But realistically, physical attractiveness is everything as far as online dating goes, if you want to hook up in the beginning.
Points to the men at the dating event. Then, which men they were going to see again. This is the chart displaying the actual distribution of what was seen as important by the women at the event. Physical attractiveness was by far the most important attribute, with the amount of positive responses and level of physical attractiveness having an astonishingly large correlation coefficient of 0.801. For comparison, the correlation coefficient between IQ and academic performance is 0.54.
That's
Think
crazy.
about that for a second.
That is crazy.
For those wondering, online dating shows an even stronger correlation, with the data from OkCupid showing a 0.92 correlation coefficient between physical attractiveness and the perceived attractiveness of a profile. Confirming what a lot of men have recently begun to realize: physical attractiveness is just as important to women as it is for men. Women just don't admit it.
Capaholics.
Another thing I think most people aren't aware of is the effect of attractiveness is exponential. The 2011 study, What Makes People Click, Mate Preferences in Online Dating, looked at various traits to see what makes people attracted to each other. The study separated the 22,000 participants' facial attractiveness into deciles of attractiveness, with the top 10% getting separated into two groups, giving the top 5% their own group. To no one's surprise, the study found attractive people were significantly more likely to receive messages and match requests, but the distribution was eye-opening. We see a steady climb in matches and messages as participants get more attractive, until we get to the top 5%. Miles above the rest, the top 5%.
This isn't even surprising or new news whatsoever. This is literally just hidden fact in plain sight. People that are ignorant and just willfully ignore shit like this, that is why it's surprising to them. But anybody with a brain and two eyes that genuinely just has relative experience, literally just reference experience from your own life, if you're not attractive per se, even if you're attractive or not attractive, essentially you're living both sides of the spectacle. So if you're attractive, you see you see how much results you get in comparison to a friend that you may have that's not as attractive as you, and vice versa. So essentially you're going to be seeing this either way, and you just have to willfully acknowledge it and not be ignorant and ignore it. But regardless, the moment you understand you're of a certain level of attractiveness, you will get automatically just better results. The halo effect is real, especially in a world where pictures and first impressions are everything. And that's what social media and online dating especially is all centered around. So for those of you who are trying to get some trying to get some work done on the fucking apps, you're trying to slay and not do all this cold approaching and work outside. Looks maxing and getting your body in shape, get your face in order, fix up your skin, do all the shit you need to do to look at your peak physical attractiveness, okay? If possible, not everybody's ever going to achieve this, but if possible, figure out a way to rise in status. Get yourself famous to an extent, because generally speaking, that is also going to carry you. So if somebody sees you on Tinder and you're famous, a lot of the times that will help. That will genuinely help your case.
In online dating, seen as more than twice as desirable as the 90th percentile man. Data released from OkCupid touts similar, if not even more telling results, showing the exponential effects of physical attractiveness. Each percentile makes a bigger and bigger difference the closer you get to the top. I don't want the takeaway from this video to be that looks are the only thing that matter, because they're not. Another large contributor
It's a very, very
attractiveness
high
is
contributing
social
factor.
status. If we look again at the What Makes You Click study, we can see a large contributor to a man's perceived attractiveness is his occupation. Irregardless of a man's individual income, the industry he worked in had a large impact on if women attempted to match with him. This is a chart showing the attractiveness of different industries men in the study worked in, and my fuzzy best estimates of the average salary in those industries. As you can see, there's a correlation between the average salary in the industry and the attractiveness of it, but it's certainly not a one-to-one. Industries like computer engineering, science, government, politics, and financial accounting make a large amount of money, but don't give the men in them much of an attractiveness boost. Industries like firefighting, law enforcement, and military don't make a ton of money, but give the men in them large boosts in their attractiveness. And over here, less attractive than being unemployed are service, hospitality, and labor. And up here, in the corner, the highest paid and most attractive career option for men,
actor,
legal/attorney.
Oh.
Maybe your parents were right.
Oh shit. Well, you know, it does rival being an attorney. I'd say being an athlete and anything of that caliber is the most attractive shit. Like being an actor, like an actual famous person, an actual famous actor, athlete, even an attorney, because people watch Suits too heavily. Everybody's trying to be Harvey Specter. So yeah, I could see that.
Considering
That could be
law
valid.
school. Something I've heard discussed a lot over the last few years is how men get better with age while women only get less desirable. And while the former is true, the latter isn't. This is a chart showing the age at which men and women are most desirable to each other at every age. The thing that sticks out the most is that men's preferences don't really change as they age, always being the most interested in women 20 to 22. I think we all knew that though. Something I don't think most men realize is that the prime demographic they're interested in, 20 to 22-year-old women, are most interested in 21 to 25-year-old guys. That's your peak, guys. It's not your early 30s, and it's certainly not 38. It is worth noting that as a man, you'll receive the most attention from women in general between the ages of 25 to 30.
Well, I could see that being true because maybe the physical peak would be anywhere from 20 to 25 as far as being a man goes. But the problem is, it's not just about looks and physicality. That would be your physical peak, but then in order for you to financially finance max yourself, you want to wealth max, you want to status max, you're not going to be able to reach that level or the levels that you will otherwise reach in the later ages of 40 and even 30. So that's the main issue because most people, when they're 18 to 25 or so, around that age, when they're younger, they're just broke. So they're not going to be able to compete with their older selves with any other regard besides looks. So a lot of the times, the fact that they're famous now, the fact that they're richer now, kind of just overrides the little missing look gap. You know what I'm saying? So if you looked better at 25, but you were broke and poor, now that you're 35, you don't look that much worse. You look slightly worse, but you're way richer and you're super famous now. So automatically, you have more appeal and your status is exponentially boosted. So that's essentially what that is. That's why people say that.
This essentially means men have two primes. A first prime from the ages of 21 to 25, when prime women 20 to 23 are most attracted to you. And a second prime from ages 25 to 30, when you get the most attention from women overall. I think it's also worth pointing out that even women start wanting to date a little younger as they get older. Dating truly is a younger man's game, and despite men seeming to age better in women's eyes than women do in men's eyes, Father Time continues to stay undefeated. Now, there's one more thing in the What Makes You Click study I want to show you. When reading through the study, I found this. The researchers concluded that both men and women's height preferences depend on their own height. Basically, being shorter than a woman will on average make you be seen as significantly less attractive than a man of the same height as her, and in a whole other category than men taller than her. I don't think this is too surprising, but here's something I think will be. Yes, this is men's height preferences for women. Outside of being reversed, men prefer women shorter than themselves. Men's height preferences for women are nearly identical to women's height preferences for men, which makes sense when you think about it. Would you want to date a girl 5 inches taller than you? Women feel the same
That's
way
atrocious.
about dating men.
That's a war crime. Yo, that's crazy. Though climbing trees could be fun. Honestly, I could see the fun in that. I'm not gonna sit and hate on that. That's a whole sport. You know, that's a whole sport. It's a branch. Can't be hating on that.
Shorter than them. Although men and women think similar in regards to height, one thing they don't think similar in regards to is divorce. A commonly thrown around statistic is that women initiate 69% of divorces. But here's another stat that makes it even crazier. If we look at the percentage of same-sex divorces that are male-male versus female-female, we see that female-female relationships are responsible for 78% of same-sex divorces. Female-female marriages are more common than male-male
And
ones,
this
though.
is not surprising because they have the grass is greener on the other side mentality at all fucking times. They have that shit. So they're going to be like, I'm not happy. I could leave and find somebody better in 10 seconds. And they instantly leave. And that's why they break up the majority of the marriages. It's a falsehood saying that men leave marriages the majority of the time because that is just incorrect. The rules in family court are so skewed heavily against men that there is literally zero incentive the majority of the time to even consider leaving the marriage. Nowadays, I don't even see the reason to get married to begin with unless you're religious to a very high degree and it's all for religion. But if that's not the case, you have zero incentive to get the government literally grabbing you by the balls, having you be responsible for some bullshit that she can opt out of at any given time and you would be on the hook for forever while she gets plowed down by the next John. And all she needs to do is just not marry him. Then you're gonna keep paying her. And even if she does marry him, maybe spousal support will stop, but child support never stops. So regardless of the fact you're just gonna lose, I don't see any reason to go ahead and do that shit. But that's probably the reason it is like that. Trying to keep marriages together.
55-45 split. So we have to adjust for this. After we adjust for the differences in relationship commonality, the relative split of same-sex divorces are 69% women, 31% men. Despite men and women not even being involved in each other's relationships, the divorce percentages remain the same. Pretty unbelievable, right? The current
Not really. It's literally just a different psychology that men and women have. That's just hypergamy right there. That's what it is. Essentially just right in your face. You can see it. This is why what are they responsible for 70% of all divorces? That's the reason right there.
Hypothesis is this is due to trait neuroticism, which measures one's sensitivity to negative emotions. If you take a random man and woman, the woman will be more sensitive to negative emotion, more neurotic, 62% of the time. This is why women are commonly seen as more emotional and volatile, both sub-characteristics of neuroticism. What this means for divorce, though, is that in 62% of relationships, the woman will feel the problems in the relationship more than the man will, which explains a large portion of this seemingly astonishing statistic. And there you have it. 8 charts that hopefully change the way you see dating and relationships. If you find this kind of stuff
This should change the way you see dating and relationships if you were so ignorant that you didn't pay attention to how relationship dynamics work in the Big 26. That's the only way this will ever change the way you see dating. If you were aware and you just had your eyes open and ears peeled, then you'd know exactly how dating works, and you'd know that this is just stated fact at this point. That's just what it is. So yeah, that's the video for today. Hopefully y'all learned something. All right, leave a like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one.